How's it going, everybody? My name is Alex McGregor, and today's video is for everyone who said that the fit of the polar scope and the laser pointer inside of the move, shoot, move brackets is not accurate enough. And they think that we have to get some tape or something like that to expand the devices and make them fit inside of the bracket a little bit tighter. And somehow, this is supposed to explain why that's not true. So a lot of people have been suspicious about the accuracy of using something like this polar scope inside of this bracket for polar aligning, and I can kind of understand why. On the image you're looking at right now, you can see that that orange cylinder is smaller than the diameter of the hole inside of that red bracket. So it might make sense that it will never properly be aligned because of that play. And if you look at this next image, that red line shows the alignment of that red cylinder, and that blue line shows the alignment of the orange cylinder. So yes, according to these diagrams, those are not in proper alignment. But when you tighten this screw, even though the hole for the tool that you're using to polar align is bigger than the tool itself, this makes everything in proper alignment. And because just looking at this bracket itself, the details are kind of too small to really see how everything is working together, I made this very rudimentary model of what we have going on. So this is my representation of a tripod. This block of wood represents the wedge or the geared head or whatever you're using to align. This block of wood right here is representing the move, shoot, move. And here we have the bracket holding our polar scope and the little screw we have to align. Now, as you can see, our polar scope here is definitely smaller than the hole inside of our bracket. That's because this is a 3/8 inch piece of pipe, and I've drilled a 7/8 inch hole into my bracket. So yeah, it's definitely out of alignment. So a lot of people think that because this hole is too big, this can just bounce around freely, and so who knows where it's going to be tightened. And I get it, that does kind of make sense. However, there is a couple of things that we need to think about. One is that gravity, even when we're on this angle, is doing a little bit of a job at pulling this polar scope down against the bottom of the bracket. So just by gravity, it is slightly aligned. Now, I'll agree with you that it could be a little bit off left and right. But when we tighten this screw, it's actually pushing this polar scope against the far edge of the bracket closest to the rotator. So now that this screw is totally tightened, you can see that there's no more play here. It's just pushed our polar scope all the way in that direction, and now the outside wall of the polar scope is aligned with the inside wall of that bracket opening. So now that we've tightened this screw, this polar scope is no longer touching at 2 points like it was earlier. Like perhaps it was touching on the right side in the back and the left side in the front, causing it to be out of alignment. This screw forcing the polar scope over is causing it to be in contact the entire way through the bracket, therefore it is in line. And as long as you have the bracket squared to the rotator and this screw is tight, your aligning device, be it the polar scope or the laser pointer, will be properly aligned with your move, shoot, move. So I understand that a lot of people who get into astrophotography are very precise, very detail oriented, and very specific and picky about how their devices work, and that does make sense. But this little gap that is inside this rotator, which I honestly never even thought about, not once when I got these devices. I just threw the laser pointer on my move shoot move, slapped a camera on there, and got, I think, a 2-minute exposure at 50 millimeters for my first try. And that was with this old version of the laser, the one that is not alignable. So if you have this new laser that can be aligned, and to do that, I have this video right here, or either version of the polar scopes, which can also be calibrated and aligned to make sure that that reticle is centered, which I have a video on right here. With these brackets, with these screws, you can be confident that it actually is in proper alignment, and that play in there doesn't really matter. Now, it can be kind of annoying when we are trying to calibrate our laser, that we have to spin it inside of this bracket and it feels like it's kind of slopping about. My idea for that is that if you have 2 screws, like the ones that came with this bracket here, use both of them, set them on the same side, and tighten them just enough to where it's providing tension. It's not actually stopping the bracket, but it is pushing it against that sidewall and making it harder to turn. And doing that is good enough to get it properly aligned. Now, I know there's going to be skeptics about all of this, but to those skeptics, I want to say, don't complain about it until you go and use it. With just this laser calibrated in my living room and doing a pretty quick alignment, I can get a 4 or 5 minute exposure with a 50 millimeter lens on a full frame camera. It just works. So if you're not able to duplicate those results, there can be all kinds of issues. It could be an issue with the plate that you have attached to your ball head or your wedge is not tight enough and your rotator is slowly slipping on it. It could be an issue that the stud that you put into the rotator is not tight enough and it is pulling once it gets too far weighted to the right. It could be that your tripod is not weighted down properly, or there's something slipping in there. It could be that you got a defective product out of your rotator and you need to contact customer service with Move Shoot Move to make sure that your product is working possibly and to see if you need a replacement. Move Shoot Move offers a 1-year warranty, but I've never needed to use it. Every single thing I've ever gotten from the company has worked really, really well, and I've been able to produce really nice images with it. Now, a lot of people are trying to push this little device past perhaps what it was intended to be used for. I use it for wide angle nightscape images, something like 14 millimeters to 50, maybe 85 millimeter lens. I trust this thing completely. Now, I also have some longer lenses, like those ones you see on my shelf right there, the 300 millimeter from Olympus. I'm not going to throw that on this little rotator. One reason is because it doesn't have a counterweight system. Something like the Skywatcher Star Adventure has a whole counterweight bracket that holds the weight out here and balances your camera, so it's putting almost no strain on the gears. If you overload this thing, it will fail. If you try to put a crazy long lens on it where you need completely perfect tracking, it will fail. Those other mounts have ports where you can put in auto guiders and hook them up to a computer and really put a whole bunch more science behind this. The Move Shoot Move is simple. It's not meant for all of that. It's meant to be small, to be compact, to be portable, to be easy to use, easy to set up, and easy to get good, or no, not good, great results with a variety of lenses up to what my personal choice is about 85 millimeters. But that being said, I've also pushed this thing longer, and I'm going to come out with a video about the Polar Scope, the new version of it that doesn't fit all the way into the bracket like this one does. It only fits part of the way, and people have used that as a reason to complain about it. But even though this is only a little ways into this bracket, I know that tightening this screw pushes it this direction so it is aligned with this edge of that inner cylinder. So I'm going to do a review about this whole system, and I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to throw a 200mm lens on a full frame camera and see what we can get. But until then, just know that this does work. The science behind this does work. It's not as accurate as some might like, but it still is more than good enough. And I've gotten great images. People like Steven have gotten great images. People like Johnny and Glenn and Alan and all kinds of talented photographers have used this little device with these little tools for alignment to get great results. So I'd just like to encourage everyone to not worry about those super fine details and just go use the gear. And if it doesn't work out, maybe we need to work through some of the other issues that your setup might have. And if you'd like to contact me personally, I have links down below where I offer a one-on-one Zoom class. The full price is $250, but I offer up to a 40% discount if you are interested in that. And I'm done. I think I've ranted enough, but we see that even though the hole is bigger, the polar scope is pushed all the way to this side, and therefore it is lined up with the hole, which is lined up with the bracket, which is lined up with our move, shoot, move. So go use your gear, enjoy it, love it, it does work. If you would like to show some support, someone bought me 5 coffees today, which I'm super appreciative of. There's links where you can buy me a coffee down below. And I'm going to end this video stealing an outro line from another YouTuber. If you've enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, please click the thumbs up button. And if you haven't enjoyed this video or found it helpful, try setting the playback speed to 70%. All right, I'm done.